everybody, it's Jane from Jane Stitches. Today's tutorial is how to make this really sweet little 4-patch pincushion. You can make it in any size. Look at how cute this little tiny one is. And I've used mother of pearl buttons, some floss, and these are all vintage fabrics. So go grab a cup of tea, watch the tutorial, and give it a shot and let me know how it goes. All right, what you're gonna need to make your 4-square pincushion are 8 2.5-inch squares, contrasting fabric, whatever you want. You can make it scrappy. You're gonna need a little ruler, some scissors. I'm using my friction pen, but any marking tool that isn't permanent would be fine. A couple of little buttons. I'm using antique mother of pearl buttons. Some floss or thread or heavy thread. This is like a crochet thread, or I don't even know. It's by Anchor, and this was actually made in Chester, Connecticut, which is right down. Oh no, it was made in Venezuela, but Susan Bates was based. It's not anymore, in Chester, Connecticut, which is a few miles away from me. So something like this, or maybe 6 strands of embroidery floss would be fine. Some yarn would be fine, but something around on the heavier side. You're going to need some pins and an iron. All right, and the very first thing that you're gonna do, let me get this stuff away, is you're going to sew a 4-patch, and we need 2 of these for, here's a little mini one that I made, for the top and the bottom. You can make this any size you want. You can make it giant and use it as a pillow, a throw pillow for your sofa. All right. And we're going to sew these together. I'm using a 1/4-inch seam allowance with my, I'm using my little featherweight. Unfortunately, I can't seem to get my phone camera to focus on me sewing. It might be something I need to figure out, or hopefully it's not broken. But I'm using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. And as you see here, I am ironing these seams open. All right, so let's begin. So we just take 2 of our squares, right sides together. Now, if you need, you can put a pin in just to hold them. I just, one is fine, just to hold it while you're sewing. And again, it's a 1/4-inch seam allowance. All right, I'm gonna go sew this one, and I'll meet you back here. So here are the 2 little units I made for the 4-patch, like this. Now, I did not cut these. They're slightly off. This is vintage fabric. I love this one. It's old, and I just love it. You know when you find that cotton and you could just tell? But they're a little bit off. I'm ignoring it. So I'm not that worried, because we do put this button in the middle here, and it all comes out evenly in the wash, as they say. But what I want you to do, put these back like this, is just give your stitches a little press. That sets your stitches. And then we're going to open these up and press our seams open. So there's one. And here's the other one. Resist ironing back and forth. Just give it a press. All right, I'm going to show you a little trick that I use so that, as you can see here, I get perfect intersection of seams. And that's why I press them open, and I'll show you why. We have right sides together, and you're going to line up this seam and that seam and grab a pin and kind of go a little bit away from the edge here, and then just go through. Right, my pin's coming up through that seam in the back, down through it in the front, and then pin. And then just go over to your machine, 1/4 inch down. I leave this pin in place, and you'll get a really, really nicely aligned seam, so it won't be off. All right, I'll see you back here when I've got this done. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to take my pin out, open it up. Beautiful. You know, knock on wood, it works every time. All right, and then like before, we're just going to press our stitches. And by the way, I learned a little trick that I didn't do with my machine. Especially with a featherweight, because I have my threads out. My Bernina, the bottom thread is, you don't even see it. But to avoid this nesting, pull your threads up and then push them over to the right of your foot, and it eliminates this. So I didn't do it that time. I forgot, but it really works. Okay, now we're just going to open up the seam. And this is a great way to make 4 patches, I find. So if you're making a 4-patch quilt, you could just do this. All right. Perfect. Now what we have to do is grab your little ruler. We need to take out a 3/4 inch notch out of all 4 sides of each of our 4 patches. So I take this ruler, I find 3/4 of an inch, and then I just mark it. You should do this on, if you have a Clover quilting board, the sandpaper will help you with this, so it won't float around like mine is doing, because I'm writing on a soft surface. Oh, and make sure you're doing 3/4 of an inch. Just want to double check this one. Yep, that's fine. Okay, after you do that, we're just going to cut these out. And if you're somebody who's into making like miniature quilts, you're going to have these cute little squares. These are 2 really different types of cotton. I could just tell by the way they sound. Okay, now you're going to have something that looks like this. Each of these have to be sewn together, so you're going to fold it over like I just did. And I sew from the top down. And again, if you need to, grab your pins and just give it a pin. And you're going to go around and do all 4 corners. Need my longer pins. All right, and you can see what's starting to form here. You're going to repeat this process on your other 4 patch and sew them up 1/4 of an inch. That's what we're using. Right down each one. I back stitch at the beginning and the end of this because it's such a short little run here. I don't want, when I'm putting these together, for it to start coming out. So go around and do that, and I'll meet you back here. All right, so now we have these 2 little half boxes, we'll call them. And one I'm going to leave so that the right side is on the inside of that box. And the other one I'm going to push out like this. And essentially we're putting right sides together. Now, be aware of where your fabrics are. I could do this so that the polka dots are together and this floral is together, or I could do it the opposite way. I'm going to do it the opposite way, just so you're aware and you can plan accordingly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin all the corners and then also the seams here. So I'm fitting these corners together like this, and I'm kind of snugging them up next to each other. All right, so that the 2 seams are really close and kind of nested in. And then I'm going to take a pin and go right through the middle of the stitching and pin that. And I'm going to go around and do this to all my corners. You just kind of want to nestle them together. And the last one. And then just like we did when we were putting the 4 square together, I'm going to match up my seams, pin through the middle and out through the other side, right through the middle. All right, I'm going to go around and do all 4. Now, when you're sewing this together, we have to leave an opening to turn it inside out. So what I do to remind myself, because I don't know if you've done this, but I've gone around and closed the whole thing up, is I will take a pin when I'm, theoretically when I'm done with all my pinning, and then wherever I want to sew or leave an opening that I'll ladder stitch later, I just go like this. Because I don't pin this way ever except for that. So give yourself either a mark with a pen, a pin, a safety pin, something so that you leave it open. And then I'm going to begin stitching around by doing a back stitch, go around and end with a back stitch so that it's really locked and can endure when I'm turning this inside out. All right, I'm going to take this over to the featherweight, sew all the way around, continuing with my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'll meet you back here. All right, here is our little pincushion sewn together. So let's find that opening, and we'll turn it inside out and see how we did. I really left not a lot, probably an inch to turn. I recommend probably leave an 1.5 inch opening so you could turn this, especially if you've got thicker fabric. All right, there we go. This is always the fun part. See how you did. Now I'm going to grab a chopstick and go in and kind of push out these little corners and this seam here. You need to kind of pull this apart. Push out each of those corners and then give that a pull and a finger press. One more. Give it a little pull and a finger press. And there is your cube. Now, you guessed, next thing we're going to do is fill this. And I'm using, grab a bunch here, just regular polyfill. You can use wool, you can use little tiny scraps if you want, anything at all. I don't put sand in this, so because I'm not using it as, you know, like an emery or something to sharpen my pins. But if you wanted to weigh it down a little bit, I guess you could kind of put sand in. The only problem with that is when you're going to fill it, the sand's going to keep shifting around. So, you know, I've thought that through. I'm like, oh, can you put sand in it to kind of weigh it down? I find that once I really fill it, and I fill my pincushions, you know, nice and tightly, that it's fine, especially since we're going to be putting in a couple of buttons, tying it together. It's fine. It's not going to go anywhere. If you use wool, I think it's going to be even more dense. Or if you use, like, you know, scraps, if you chop them up and put it in, it's going to be really dense and it will be weighted down. All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to fill this. Now, something to be aware of when you're filling is, I like, you know, here's my opening on this side. I'm going to start with these two corners and start with small pieces and get them as much as I can into these little corners. You know, I put my polyfill in, and I love using a chopstick, and I have favorite chopsticks. Like this one has kind of this square end and a nice point. It's bamboo. But this is what I push it in with, like this. And then I take the pointy end and I push it down into the corners. And it does kind of float around in there, but you'll find it and you push it into the corners. And I just keep going with little pieces like I'm using. And I push right into the corners as much as I can. All right, I'm going to go fill this up with polyfill and I'll meet you back here. Here is our little cube all filled up. And now what I have to do is ladder stitch this closed. Now, a little hint for you with the stuffing, it's not my favorite part of projects, filling up things with polyfill or any kind of fill, frankly. But if you need to shift it around after, get yourself a long pin. This is a long quilter's pin, and you can put the pin in and kind of move the filling around slowly. And I've done this with my dolls' faces if I need, you know, if I put them in light and I say, ooh, her chin isn't, you know, it's indented, I need to fill it up. But you can move the fill around. And as you can see, I like to, you know, fill these nice and firmly. All right. Grab yourself a needle and some thread. And I got it knotted, yes. And I'm going to go in, let's get in a little bit closer. So I'm going to go in with my needle. And you can see right there where my little stitches are being stressed. I'm going to come up just past where those are. All right. And then you're just going to go back and forth like a ladder. So underneath, come up, sometimes it's hard to get started. And you want to be aware of your seam allowance. I could see where mine is. But you see it and you pull it as you go, not too tight. You don't want it to bunch. Back and forth. And I've got a little bit of a pucker. I'm not going to worry about it. I did notice it when I was sewing. And that's the kind of thing, because remember what I said, I bought all these 2.5-inch squares at an estate sale, and they weren't exact, you know, they were all hand cut. So they weren't super accurate, but you know what? I'm fine with that. This is a handmade pincushion. I've never tried to sew like a machine, and it is quite apparent, right? So I'm just easing it like that. I'll do one more. And then what I do is a knot, 1, 2, and I just go down into the seam, come up, and sink that so you don't see your knot. Give it a cut. Now I've shown you before, but I'll show you again how to get rid of this little tail. I left that on purpose so I could do this, but there's a little tail. Just take your needle, find it, and then pull it in and it disappears. So now we've got this done. Next, grab your buttons, and I picked this mother of pearl for the top, and then I have another little one for the bottom. And I threaded my very, very long doll needle. You definitely need one of these. Otherwise, you're going to be really frustrated trying to go through all of this. And then all you do is you start at the top, go down, and come up, whoop, right at the bottom, do that pop, and then come up. You're coming up through the bottom of your button, and then down through the top. Get rid of some of that tail there. And then I'm just going to go back. I'll go the opposite side here and come back up on the opposite side of my pincushion like this. All right, so there's our button on the bottom. And then come up like this. Now you could go through a couple of times. This is so strong, I just go through once. But if you have something thinner or you're not sure, you could just do this again. Go down, come up, go back down and come up, and then you can tie it off. But what I do, I don't need that much of this thread. All right, so I have one tie, and you see me pushing this down. It really tightens it. Push down, tie another knot like that, and then a third like that. Give it a cut, and there you go. Isn't that sweet? Super easy. I love how when you put the button through like this, it just really completes the shape, makes it nice and firm. Look at how sweet that little mother of pearl button is on the bottom. And that's it. If you start now, you can make a bunch of these for your quilty sewing friends. And I just think they're really sweet. And if you really want to make them extra special, go watch my tutorial on how to make a strawberry. Here's the little baby one. How cute is that? I'm going to make a little white linen strawberry to go with this. And then all you do when you're done with your little strawberry, and I'm going to fill this one with sand so that it can be used to actually sharpen your pins and needles. But then you tie a piece of floss to it, put it underneath the button, and then you have a really nice little gift there. So that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Give it a shot and let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribed and followed me, and that way you'll never miss another tutorial. Thanks again, everyone, and happy stitching.